Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to help you understand context in the war in Ukraine. Here are the three big stories for today. And it's often hard to find or identify just three big stories. Some days, a day or two ago, I had to do 7. Today, it was pretty easy. First story, this is absolutely horrible. Belarusian vacation camps for Ukrainian children are more about re-education than recuperation. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this. They play hockey, they visit a toy factory, they receive gifts, perform goofy dances, but they also train with automatic weapons, ride on armored personnel carriers, commemorate the Soviet Union, and learn Russian pop song that proclaims Russia is behind us. Belarus's organized vacations for children from Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine are not just about escaping life in a combat zone. It's there to re-educate them. And so what they're doing is making sure that these children have a great time with these soldiers, thinking about patriotic things. And then these vacations, these recuperations are actually to militarize Ukrainian children. It's pretty evil. So that's big story number 1. Big story number 2. Now, yesterday I talked about how the drone strikes in Russia were damaging oil capacity. And I want you to hear what I have to say before I show you the articles that I'm about to show you. Once Ukraine starts targeting the actual oil refineries itself, the game changes. So here, I just saw this. Now, in a single drone attack, Jay in Kyiv says, Ukraine has taken out 5% of Russia's total oil refining capacity. Now, imagine this. Hear what I'm about to say. Just hear it clearly. Now, this is way too simplistic, I understand, but imagine them doing it 19 more times, depriving the Russians of oil revenue and oil, even domestic oil supply. Look, if you can do this, again, across Russia and other places, and it's going to really screw with the Russians' head. I want to be on record right now. When they attack something on Russia's east coast somewhere along the, near Japan, when they start doing that, it's going to really mess with the Russians psychologically. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there for months down the road when that actually happens. But they're actually making some significant progress with that. Jason. Okay, so what did they do? And now it's not 5%. It's not, you hit this factory, there's 5%. You hit this one, it's another 5%. You hit this other refinery, it's another 5%. It's not quite like that. But I want you to see this. Let's not assert, this was a comment that came back to me, let's not assert that Jay in Kyiv knows enough about Russian oil refineries to legitimately claim that Ukraine has just taken out 5% of Russian refinery capacity with one drone strike. That sounds absurd on its face. Do you truly believe that one drone strike could take out 5% of refinery capacity? It hurts the Russians, no doubt, and probably hurts Putin's feelings, but a 5% reduction sounds way off base. Now, I only say what I believe that I can prove, and I do my homework before I come on this, and I've spent a long time compared to the amount of time that I'm talking to you. So yes, I do believe that something like that is possible. It's not about 5% and then another 5%. It is about a few percentage points and then a few more percentage points. But I said I'm not arguing technical 5%, but they are hitting the source refineries. Sorry, but you're wrong. Lukoil produces 5% of Russia's oil in itself. Okay, so here, more than 10% of Russia's oil processing capacity hit by Ukraine this week, DNB Market says. This was in Barron's. So I'm not making this stuff up. Ukrainian strikes against Russia's energy infrastructure have damaged facilities, accounting for more than 10% of the Kremlin's oil processing capacity over the past 2 days, according to DNB Market's estimates. Now, why is this important? John McCain famously said that Russia is a gas station masquerading as a state, or something very equivalent to that. The third of Russia's budget comes from oil and natural gas. Okay, so here's the Guardian. Ukraine war briefing, refineries in Russia burn as Ukrainians go after Kremlin's lifeline. The Ryazan oil refinery, Rosneft's biggest refinery, was set ablaze, and a regional governor said on Wednesday it shut down 2 damaged primary oil refining units. Rosneft did not comment. The plant handles about 5.8% of Russia's total refined crude, according to industry sources. So yes, I do believe about 5%. Give or take a little bit. Here we're giving instead of taking, but nonetheless, it's about 5%. A fire broke out at Norilsk, Russia's fourth largest refinery, after a Ukrainian drone attack. Russia's officials said on Tuesday its main crude distillation unit was damaged, which means that at least half of the refinery's production is halted, according to industry sources. Norilsk handles nearly 6% of total refined crude. Ukrainian drone targeted the Kursk refinery. It's one of the top two refineries in Russia, handling 6.4% of Russia's capacity, according to industry sources. So yes, and I'm not saying this to say, ha ha, I was right. I'm saying this for a different reason. There's something there. This is big. This is huge. It's hard to estimate just how huge this is. Now, another viewer said this, and I'm not a chemical engineer, so I can't really speak to this, but a viewer said this. I learned a ton of things from you, and I so appreciate our interaction. As a chemical engineer, the strike between the two refinery columns was well placed. The crude column and vacuum column, I don't even know what those are the heart of the plant, and all the crude goes through them. The entire plant will be totally disabled for a year, plus or minus. Ukraine should repeat the strike a few months before they're ready for startup. The more those columns are damaged, the better. The internals have long lead times. Replacing all the wiring, instruments, pumps will take some time. Also, electric switchgear stations for high voltage service have extremely long lead times. Don't forget about these. Okay, so this was big. When I say big stories, I mean big stories. So that's where we are. Okay, let's look at, this is part of the geography of the strikes. This is from reporting from Ukraine, and here's what they had to say.
Forces conducted one of the most successful massive strikes against Russian military assets, such as airfields, factories, and headquarters, as well as energy infrastructure, such as refineries and fuel depots. This was also the deepest strike that Ukrainians have ever conducted.
And that's really important. It's a deep strike. So it's not just right around the periphery or even just St. Petersburg, which was impressive in and of itself, but it's a deep strike. Here's a map from the ISW of where the strikes took place. And again, they're really messing with Russia's psyche here when they're striking in places that the Russians didn't think they'd ever be able to strike. Now, what I said in that other video was, now Russia has a dilemma. They have to figure out, how do we defend these places here, and do we move air defense back, or what exactly do we do? And when they hit on the east coast of Russia, it's going to be a huge problem for Russians mentally. Okay, next story, Putin's guide to rigging an election. Russia is holding presidential elections this weekend, and like me, you're no doubt waiting with bated breath to see who will come out on top this time around. Of course you're not. If you can't possibly imagine that the election will go a different way than what it's going to go, then something's probably not right. Putin views carefully rigged elections as crucial for legitimizing his rule. So he's scamming the system in order to legitimize his election. I mean, it's pretty amazing. To that end, he's willing to spend vast sums, upwards of $1 billion, according to leaked documents. Wait, let me understand that. He's spending $1 billion to win an election that he knows is already rigged. Like, how bizarre is that? Okay, so he's controlling the media and information spheres to ensure the Kremlin's curated version of Russian domestic politics provides an illusion of choice while delivering an election outcome that serves the president's needs. That's where we are. Okay, this headline was the best headline that I've seen in I don't know how long. Burning the midnight oil. Pretty clever. Okay, that's all that I have. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.